This is the Blue Cloud Podcast, empowering the entrepreneurial lifestyle with insights on the leading trends in the mobile and digital landscape, turning ideas to empires.
Hello, everybody. This is Carter Thomas. I hope you are doing great. Welcoming you. Currently in the big island of Hawaii, doing a little work, shooting some videos for the upcoming emoji course, which I'm very excited about. And you'll be hearing plenty more about in the coming weeks. So stay tuned to that. I have a really special guest today, speaking of emojis, and I want you all to meet Evan Delaney, who I was fortunate enough to meet last year, I guess last April, May, at the Blue Cloud Hawaii event in the North Shore of Turtle Bay. And Evan and I hit it off right from the start. We both have a very similar interests and pasts from college and swimming and just our overall mindset and how we look at the world. So it's been great getting to know Evan and hearing and seeing his story unfold over the last, 8-9 months now. Now, what you're going to hear today is you're going to hear a lot more about Evan and hear about his background, but he spent the past, I believe, 6 or 7 years building apps for larger clients. Sometimes they're corporate clients, sometimes they're startup clients that have a lot of funding. But people come to him and his company, and they will hire him to build a very custom, specific mobile solution that he will then deliver to them. Right now, this is often apps and mobile all gets packaged together from in the greater scheme of things. But what Evan's done is more of a B2B, right? He provides a service and a product to one or two clients a month. And he has not built a lot of consumer-facing products. In fact, that the emoji stuff is one of his first real tests into this world. And he took a lot of what we've been teaching at Blue Cloud. He took a lot of information he got from live events, and he made it happen. I mean, he put in the work. He pushed through it, and it's incredible. And so I'm really excited for you guys to hear the success story because he was a developer. He's an engineer by trade. He had a big mental shift last year. He hit the gas and he made something really, really special happen. And now it's going to unlock all these new doors in the emoji category. So I'll let Evan explain it better than I can. I'm really, really happy to introduce Evan to you guys. So please enjoy my conversation with Evan Delaney.
Learn, implement, succeed. The Blue Cloud Podcast with Carter Thomas.
Evan, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
This is great. This is, I was actually, when I was walking to work today, thinking that when we first met, I think it was in Hawaii. Is that right? Like May at the Hawaii event. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you came to that event kind of just on a whim or on a loose recommendation from somebody of like, okay, I'll go check this out and just see what happens. Is that fair to say?
It wasn't even a recommendation. It was more of a, hey, this marketing email just hit my inbox. Hawaii is like a hell of an option. It's my 5-year wedding anniversary. So like if everything goes terribly, like I can bring my wife along and we can kind of like recover from this. But I had seen you and Chad on the App Empire stuff, and so I was like, yeah, like this Carter guy, like he seems like he's got his stuff together. Like let's see where this goes. And so I went, and I was like, the lead up to the event was, what can you do for other people? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm not like an app like badass kind of thing. Like what can I do for all these other people? And I got there and I was like, wait a minute. Like, this is my community. Like, these are my people. Like, these are entrepreneurs that like are excited about apps, not engineers that are like, oh, what's the nerdiest thing that I can do in an app kind of thing.
It's so true. It's amazing what happens when people from the, non-app world come into the app community expecting all these coder types to be like, oh, what's the hottest new language I should be writing this in? And then they realize that it's just regular people that are trying to make really great businesses and help each other, help everyone else try to make really cool businesses. And it was funny too, because the more we chatted at that event, it was more that you and I seemed to have so much crossover in our pre-app lives of college and swimming and all that, which was, it's always cool to see how, the paths diverge throughout the life. With starting with that, not to get too deep into it, but I'm always really interested in how people got to where they are. After college, what got you from college to running a large web development shop and becoming the emoji king of the App Store?
Yeah, so after college, I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I moved back home with mom and dad, and they did not appreciate that. Neither did I. And so I spent a couple years wandering in the woods trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to be. And I just happened to take like a crappy job at the Apple retail store, just because I was, interested in computers. I'd been interested in computers forever. And I just needed some cash, like I didn't have any rent to pay, but I wanted to, go out and drink with my buddies or whatever. So I did that for 2.5 years, and I understood immediately that I was not interested and not cut out to work for some ginormous company where I was just another cog in the machine. Especially given that like you get fed a bunch of like, oh, like you could advance your career and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I don't want to advance my career. Like I want to do the thing that I want to do. And so I eventually got to the spot where I realized that, any idiot can run his own business. And I also had the realization that I'm any idiot. So like those two things seem to line up pretty well. And I started a mobile agency in 2010. And was like, okay, I'm gonna build apps. I had been fortunate enough to be a computer science minor in college, and so I picked up a programming book and started programming. As soon as you tell people like, oh, I'm making apps or whatever, like, business just kept going and kept going and kept going, word of mouth. And so that's kind of how we got to where we were. Is my team and myself all grew up as engineers, and we all taught ourselves about how to be badass coders. Because all of us had a pretty solid customer service and client relationship standpoint, we were able to deliver on some of the stuff that we were selling.
When you, in 2010, when that agency started, was it the apps that brought you in, or was it the demand for services that made apps that brought you in?
So I was looking for a business, right? I was looking to go do my own thing. And I bought my wife one of those original iPads, or she was my girlfriend at the time, so I bought her one of those iPads just kind of on a whim. Everybody was talking about like, oh, it's just a giant iPad or just a giant iPod Touch, like it doesn't do anything. And my wife was like, no, this is the best computer I've ever owned. Like this thing doesn't crash. The software for it is perfect. And so that's when I was like, no, like that's the computer of the future. Like that's like what you see in Star Trek. I want to build software for that. And so that's when I sat down and like really put pen to paper and was like, okay, how do I make this work? How do I grind out, like what's the fastest way for me to start making money on this? And the fastest way for me was tap into my network and start building apps for other people.
Got it. Yeah. So it was almost like selling the shovels before the entire gold rush was happening, which is a great position to be in on both levels.
Yeah.
And so during that time, did you have any apps of your own, like just straight B2C digital products in your own portfolio?
We didn't. We were building apps for other people, and we were trying to find out, where our service, kind of fit in with everybody else and what everybody else was doing. So, we would build an app for a startup. We would build an app for an established company. We would build an app for a very large company, just to see what it was like working with all these different things. And, fortunately for 7 years, we've had enough business and enough work that like we've been swamped. I mean, we've just been like totally over our head. Mostly because it's a little bit of a feast or famine, where when you're a consultant, when you're an agency, it's kind of like, yeah, I'll take all the work that I can get because you don't know when that's going to dry up.
Sure. Yeah, it's so true. It's, I think anyone out there who's done contract type work can appreciate that idea of, just say yes type of mentality. And then it's always easy to later on say like, oh, say no and scale, be deliberate. And you're like, you don't get it. Like, give me a break. All right. So 2010 got the agency, and that agency is still growing, thriving, working the whole
absolutely.
deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
And so over that time period, we had seen we had seen other companies launch apps and then either go well or fall flat, right? And so a lot of the companies that we worked with, where their apps didn't do well, they didn't have an established business, right? And so that really scared me and the rest of my team from saying like, oh, like, you know, the companies that we're building apps for, when they put their app out, they don't have an audience to put their app in front of right away. Like they have to, one, build the app and also generate the audience. And the companies where we put the app out and it gets, you know, 1 million sessions in the first month, they already had an audience, right? They already had people that were, you know, a business that was clamoring for some sort of mobile product. Mm-hmm. And so for my team and I, we kind of got a little cynical about it. We kind of got a little like, oh, well, you know, like you already have to have a business. Like you can't possibly just break into the App Store under this like, you know, newcomer thing. Like either you're established or you're not, want, like, you know, it's just, you know, crap, and the App Store is declining and everything like that.
I see. Yeah, it's. I distinctly remember being in a presentation with this developer this database guy that I ended up becoming friends with and going to a few Metallica concerts with. and we walked into a sports marketing agency, and we're pitching them on creating an app for Red Bull. And I remember so vividly putting a slide up on the presentation that said the App Store has like it's crushing it. It's got 25,000 apps. You know, you're going to miss the wave, and it was so funny because they said the same thing to me. They're like, well, you know, Red Bull might be interested in this, but you know, we got to get the audience ready, and you know, these apps can't grow on their own. And
yeah,
you know, looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, what an unbelievable fail on all of our parts, but you know, lesson learned. And
yeah,
so
for sure.
With that business model, at what point did you decide, okay, I see the business here. I see that there's more than the original thesis of company needs audience to make mobile app work. At what point did you say, you know what, I think that there's an opportunity to build standalone products, both for yourself or for your clients, that you could just put in the store and create viable revenue streams from?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was the divergence of two painful pieces, right? So painful piece number one was we had gotten fired from a ginormous contract, and so we were going to be short on revenue for the rest of the year. So that was painful. And then the other piece was I had just had a kid, and so I did not have any sleep. And so I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, like I can't possibly pull like all-nighters to get you know, this code written and also take care of, you know, this new pink little squirmy human. You know, something's got to give here. And like around that time is when you know, around that time is when App Empire 2 launched, when Blue Cloud Hawaii launched, and I just said, you know, these guys have something figured out that I don't know about, you know, like a new audience or about putting something out there and, you know, finding that audience. And you know, so I just started devouring the information around this notion of App Store businesses and App Store marketing, you know, and I'm looking at my business partner and I'm kind of like, hey, is this total BS, or are we just like super jaded from the past, you know, 7 years of being, you know, grumpy engineers that, you know, just have seen so many things fail and just have seen so many things like, you know, okay, kind of whatever. And so, you know, like both of us kind of had that moment where we said like, okay, even if it is BS, even if it is totally crappy, like even if we're getting sold snake oil, like let's go all in. Right, mm-hmm. Like if we're going to go down in flames, like if the consulting company isn't going to keep working, like if we're going to get fired by everyone, like it's been 7 years, it's been fun. Let's go out in style where we're trying to make money ourselves, and that we're not, you know, that we don't have a bunch of clients or whatever kind of thing. And so we just had that mindset shift of like, all right, like no more dipping your toe in, like the water is cold, we're jumping in, like all the way, let's go kind of thing. And I mean, it was scary. I mean, in Hawaii, I have never been more scared at a conference and felt less qualified than walking into that room and like, you know, signing my name and putting it on my chest and being like, yeah, I'm here to hopefully learn everything that I possibly can.
That's amazing, though. It's a testament to the fact that, you know, I think a lot of people get stuck in a a tunnel vision of, well, I'm doing this and I've seen this work and I've seen this other thing not work. And because of my own experience, I now believe that there's no way that could ever work because I believe it can, right? And being able to step out of your shell and look at it objectively and say, you know what, someone's doing it. Like someone's getting this right. Like there's a reason why people are still talking about this. And why can't that be me if I just go in, hit the gas and just go for it, right? Like why not?
It's totally depressing, right? To see somebody else have a ton of success and then you'd be like, wait a minute, that guy is not smarter than me. That guy does not hustle harder than me. That guy, like, he doesn't have better contacts than me. Like, what is he doing that I'm not doing? You know, and then you take, you know, kind of stock of yourself and you're like, oh, like he's selling, or oh, he's marketing, or oh, like he believes in the process. Like, even if it isn't working for him today, it will work for him tomorrow, kind of thing. And it's this mindset shift of like, that guy's not any better than me. But I need to evaluate myself and figure out like what it is that I'm holding myself back with.
Totally, and yeah, I think it's one of the defining characteristics of growth is being able to think about or see what's happening and audit that without even in the face of people being like, hey, by the way, opportunity over here, and there's no, and. I think it's a pivotal moment for anyone who's successful. They 9 times out of 10 have that moment when they're like, I have to just go. I have to believe that it could happen to me. And that's when it starts to really take off. And so let's go from there. So you got back from Hawaii, and over the course of the next, I guess, 6 months, a lot, just absorbed all the information you could, which got you to, I guess, what was like the fall when the first, I should say, when did the first, when did the first app come out after that event?
Yes. So I got back from Hawaii and I drove my team totally crazy, right? Because I was like, we're going to do this app and we're going to do this app. Oh, and we're going to crush it. And we're going to do this. And they were like, I mean, it was like whiplash. Like the engineers on the team, we were standing at the whiteboard every Monday. We had a whiteboarding session. Like, how much do we think we would make, and what's our monetization schedule? And like everybody on my team has been writing code for like 6 years. Like we're not thinking in business terms. We're thinking in code terms. And everybody's pretty middle of the road. Everybody's like, oh, I'll be excited if we do $10,000. I'll be excited if we have 100 installs. Like whatever kind of stuff. And like I said, I gave everybody whiplash. We're doing this project, we're doing that project, we're doing whatever project. And the whole time I'm paying attention to the stuff in the Blue Cloud Facebook group. And this email comes across about an emoji template. And I was like, as far as like an engineering cost, I bet I could take this template. I bet I could tweak the hell out of it really quickly and not have a ton of engineering costs involved in this thing, and get something out there on the App Store and prove to myself that, and the rest of the team, that we can get 100 downloads, right? That we can get, $1,000 or, something like that, right? Like that this is a thing that, so we're going to do that. We're going to do emojis and like, it's just low hanging fruit from a tech standpoint. And so then it was like, okay, cool. Like you made up your mind on what the product is, like what's going in there. And I was just like, oh, like, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. Like,
details.
What do people want? Yeah, exactly. Like, what do people that like emojis want? I was like, oh, unicorns or something. Like, I was like, no, wait a minute. Let me think about this a smart way. I was a swimmer in high school and college. I know that group of people are totally, insane about being swimmers. Like, that is part of their identity, 100%. I mean, as you said, like when we were in Hawaii, like that was a thing that we bonded over, was like, like we were both swimmers kind of thing. 10 years later, 10 years after the fact kind of thing. And so I was like, all right, swimmers, we're doing swimmers. Like that's their identity. These people with that identity, they're going to want to send, these emojis and these stickers and whatever. So like swimming. And the rest of my team is like, again, like, what are you smoking? Like, we know nothing about swimmers. I'm like, I know everything about swimmers. Like, we will go. Like, let's just do this, And so like everybody's just kind of like, all right, like whatever. And Alan, my business partner, he pulls me aside and he's like, how are we going to market this thing? Like, the big thing about App Empire, the big thing about Blue Cloud is marketing. Like, what's your marketing plan here? And I was like, oh God, I don't know. I'll call my buddy who missed the 2008 Olympics, and I will see if he can call all of his buddies, and like it'll be this like phone tree network of people calling each other. Like, this is a really good scaling marketing.
Yeah, an MLM plan.
Exactly. So no, that wasn't the plan. So I tried to get connected to Olympians, and I was like, okay, well, right now everybody's talking about influencer marketing, so I'm gonna try to get Olympians on board, and so I'm cold calling agents. I'm getting pretty positive feedback. And then one of the agents says, like, hey, what are you going to do about this rule that the Olympic Committee has about sponsoring athletes and athlete sponsoring, during the Olympic time period? And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't even know what you're talking about. And so, like, they hung up the phone on me, like, angrily, and they were like, you don't know what you're talking about, like, don't call me again. And so I go look up, and it basically, like, in like totally clear text, it says, if you're not an official Olympic sponsor, athletes cannot show any favoritism towards your product during, a week before the Olympics and 2 weeks after the Olympics. And like the official sponsors are like, Delta, Coca-Cola, and McDonald's and Budweiser. Well, I definitely don't have that kind of marketing budget. So I'm like, I'm totally screwed now, right? Like, I had a whole day where I was like, I'm not going to work. I was like, I'm not going to work. Erica was like, what is wrong with you? Like, you go to work every day and every weekend. Like, what is going on? And I was like, my emoji idea has totally been shut down. Like, I'm almost done with it. Like, I've got my app icon. I've got a test flight build. Like, I'm so close to being done. And, the International Olympic Committee is shutting me down, like bastards, kind of thing. Like, I was depressed. I was like, clearly I'm just not cut out for this, right? Like, I'm a business person, but like clearly I just can't ship a product. Like, it's a disaster. And so I sat around and like kind of crybabied about it for a little while. And then I was like, all right, we're doing advertisements. Like, we're going to run ads. We're going to run ads on Facebook, and we're just going to bleed a ton of money. Like, I don't care. Like, I have to show the team that like we are going to get 100 downloads. We're going to get in front of, like people that like this thing, and then it's going to hopefully take off word of mouth viral kind of thing. And so again, it was like, Alan pulls me aside and he's like, that's great. How does Facebook ads work? And I'm like, I don't know. Go to the Facebook Learning Center and let's do as many of these e-learning, boring, dry presentations as we can, and figure it out. And like this e-learning is like exactly what you'd expect at like a corporate job, where it's like, hey, and welcome to like sexual harassment 101 for the corporate, and it was dry. It was so boring, and we got through it, and we were like, okay, we know how to do it, but we don't know if anything is gonna work, if it's gonna be any good.
And before, I just want to jump in, because it's interesting to point out that in this case, I think that your experience of not being an app developer person, whatever, actually helped you, because I think most people's first reaction wouldn't have been, let's go sponsor the Olympic team, or let's go crush Facebook ads or whatever. It would have been, well, let's go see if we can find some keywords in the App Store. Let's do like basic ASO stuff. Let's do a bunch of, kind of micro moves in the grand scheme of things. So my question for you would be, did that cross your mind? And if it did, why didn't you go after that the way that I would say 9 out of 10 app marketers probably would have first step?
Yeah, totally. So I would like to say that it was some sort of like visionary whatever, but it was because we didn't know how to do market research, right? We were a bunch of engineer, computer science, coder geeks that was like, I want to do a book report on people. Like, no, that's too squishy for me. Like, I have no idea what that is. Like, I'm just going to go build an app that I think people like me would like, and I'm going to try to build the least technical app that I possibly can. So it's emojis. I know a lot about swimmers. Hopefully this works. Like, it's a total, like, not a spray and pray, but like a, gosh, like, I hope this one works kind of thing.
Yeah, it's such a, sometimes I wish that I could instill that into people that have like been doing apps from 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, like so dialed into this idea of like, well, I got to buy a template, and then I got to figure out what theme I'm going to make so I can get the keywords and put it in the App Store. And I'm just like, that, like, please just like evolve this process, right? Like just think about this a little bit differently, so that you can do that. And so
those people that are doing that, right? They have a ton of tools at their disposal for research, right? Like, how do you do keyword research? You do market research, right? Like, what are people searching for? Why are they searching for it? Oh, it's a popular term right now. It's a popular theme. It's a popular meme, or it's a whatever, like, okay, cool. Like, just do a little bit more research on the people that like, Gangnam style meme or Gangnam style, video or whatever. Like, what is it about those people that would make them lose their mind about, an app that you could put out, right? Like, how could that be your like jumping off point to move things forward, as opposed to that being your destination of like, I'm doing a Gangnam style, reskin kind of thing. Yeah.
And when I think on top of your own experience as an engineer, I think one thing that you said, and that is obviously coming through, is this: from the get-go, you were thinking about the swimmers. You weren't thinking about like a generic number of downloads, of all downloads are created equal. You were thinking about that swimmer that is absolutely obsessed with being a breaststroker and wants everybody in the world to know that they're a breaststroker.
Yeah.
And like, you were thinking about them. And I think that, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but I think that idea of who are these people, and like, how do we get in front of those people in a meaningful way, is that really kind of begins the snowball effect of how these apps start to really take off.
Yeah, I had been fortunate enough in my agency to get to ask, these business owners, like, hey, who are we building this app for? Oh, this app is for teachers. Oh, this app is for, C-suite executives. Oh, this app is for, business travelers, kind of thing, right? And so, like, you have to ask that question in order to, like, kind of sort of do a little bit crystal ball mind reading as you write this code. And so, like, yeah, there is a human element about it. There is I should use Pink because this is a yoga app that is, super important for this demographic of people, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's also, it's amazing too when you start to get into that mindset of, okay, I'm building it for this person, and you start to seek out those communities and those groups of people, and then you start to notice as a marketer or as a product owner how they're talking, what they're saying, and all of a sudden you're like, how have I missed all these details that I just, even as swimmers, we saw this stuff. I mean, we know it inherently, but when you start looking at it objectively, you're like, oh my gosh, it's so obvious that there are certain words that swimmers use. There are certain times of day that they check their phone. There are certain things that they connect with that, you never would have known if you hadn't just gone all in on thinking about those people.
Yeah. Well, it's a little in the future to bring this up, but we put these Facebook ads out there for these swimmers, and we immediately start getting people commenting on the ad, which, like, it just blows my mind. I'm like, wait a minute, you're going to interact with my ad? Like, you don't know me? Like, you don't know Swimoji? Like, why on earth would you be commenting on my ad? Like, I don't even comment on people's baby pictures on Facebook. Like, what is going on here, right? But these people, they feel such a strong affinity to this thing popping up in their news feed that they don't see that often, or maybe they see it all the time. And they're like, this is amazing. Like, this is totally boss. This is totally kick ass. And you're like, yes, like, great. Like, I nailed it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, download now, buy here.
Exactly.
So you guys kind of went brute force approach with Facebook ads. You get Swimoji in the store and you start firing Facebook ads. What are some of the things that, good and bad, that you saw early on that was like, oh my gosh, we did not think about that. This was different than what we expected to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So we fired a bunch of Facebook ads, and you start getting data instantly, right? Like you hit that go button, and Facebook ads just starts dumping tons of data into your dashboard. And you look at this data, and your eyes go like totally cross-eyed. I mean, my business partner Alan is a math major. He loves math. He's looking at these being like, is this good? Like, what does this mean? Like, is this, so like, then we're like just pounding the internet being like, is a $10 install, cost per install sustainable? Like, is this a good, like we're asking everywhere that we can find, like, there's not really a real strong, like nobody's blogging about this every day. Like, and so we're like, all right, let's go in the Facebook group. Let's go in the Blue Cloud group. Let's go in the, and so like, we're just blanketing questions like, what's a good conversion rate? What's a good CPM? What's a good, like all this stuff that we had learned theoretically through the Facebook e-learning modules, and we were now seeing in practice, and we're totally confused by. And so like, we do enough research and we're like, oh man, like we're getting $3 CPI with a 1% click through. We must be crushing it because everyone else out there is talking about $10 CPIs and how Facebook ads don't work. And so like, let's just keep putting money in. $3, like we're not profiting, but like we're getting this out in front of somewhere, and like maybe we'll hit like this critical tipping point where, 49% of all swimmers everywhere have Swimmoji, and the other 51% are like, oh, I got to get that now. Like, it's like some popular trend or something. And so it's just like, okay, go, spend. And, like 2 weeks later, after we'd spent like, $300 or $400 or something, Alan and I look at each other and we're like, let's not spend. Like something is wrong here. Like just bleeding money. Like when you're excited about it, like when you're excited about like getting downloads and getting in front of people, like you can kind of talk yourself, like, okay, like maybe this will work. Maybe like, and then like, like the excitement wears off and you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, I'm shutting down Facebook ads now. Like I am bleeding out my child's college fund. Like, please stop this now.
You get that first $750 charge on your credit card.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is real money. I forgot about that.
Yeah. This is not Monopoly money. Oh, I better chill out here.
One thing I want to, for anybody listening who's a complete novice, I just want to clarify. So the data that you see in Facebook ads is like demographic data. So it means like who's clicking on your ads, meaning are they male or female? How old are they? What country do they live in? What state do they live in? You can slice this in maybe dozens of ways, and Facebook has so much information about people. And so you see, imagine seeing like 300 people clicked on your ad, and each of those people has an individual profile of how old they are, where they live, all that. And obviously Facebook organizes it to a certain extent, but you do see a lot of numbers, and it's very overwhelming when you first see it. But then when you step back, take a deep breath, and go back into it, you're all of a sudden like, all right, now I kind of understand. And things like CPI, which cost per install, meaning everyone was paying $3 to get someone to download their app, right? And let's say that app was either free or $1 or $2 or whatever. And so you're paying $3 to get one install, which, you can do your own individual math for your app, but that's the kind of stuff that you see in Facebook ads. And, like you said, Evan, when you first do it, you're like, it's a combination of total what is going on, and then you get this, oh, now I kind of know what's going on, and now I want so much more of it. And then phase 3 of turn off all the credit cards, stop it, shut down Facebook. Like, what are we doing? Like, oh my God. Then you start to be like, maybe we should have a strategy so that we don't do that again.
Yeah. I mean, all throughout this like spend of money, I'm like every Friday I'm in the Blue Cloud group being like, on the QA calls, I'm like, hey, what is CTR? Like, what is that? And what is a good one of those, right? And so like it was really helpful to kind of have someone, being you, give me some focus and be like, okay, the first thing you should focus on is click-through rate. That's what CTR is, and these are some of the levers you can use to move that number. So why don't you try doing that? It's like, okay, cool, like my CTR went up. What's next? It's like, okay, how about CPM? Okay, that went down. All right, great. Then what about CPI? Oh, that, and so like just kind of just slicing it, and you can really work, outside in, inside out, upside down. Like there's really any of those. If you just pay attention to one of those and making it better over time, like you just start to see how you can fuss with, the different options that you have.
And it's also amazing how things can change, right? And
right.
Especially things on the human element when you change the way the writing, the headline. You change what you tell people to do. And I think that often we, as someone on the outside, or even as marketers or business owners, it's easy to say, the details don't really matter. People they either know or they don't if they're going to click on something. Like, marketers, they just dump it out. But Facebook ads, what's so amazing is that you realize how much of a science it is, and how you change one word and you can completely change your results in a very meaningful and big way. And that's why I think it is so important, like you said, to start. You just got to get started. Set up your account and just go for it. You're going to be overwhelmed for the first week or so and be like, but then it will get excited, and then more importantly, you can be methodical about it. You can slowly take a campaign that might not be working the way you want it to and just say, all right, let's focus in on this number and let's try to get that number down. And then the next number. And then it all starts to work together. And all of a sudden you're looking around and be like, man, I'm pretty close to having this thing be profitable. And that's when you're like, okay, I'm hooked. I'm in.
Yeah.
And so one thing I wanted to ask you is between seeing that email about, hey, there's an emoji template available, right, for app formula members or anyone else who purchased it, and then having an app in the store that you are buying Facebook traffic on. What process did you have to go through once you knew that swimmers were who you wanted to go build this app for? What went into getting that app up and into the store?
Yeah, so a big piece of it was outsourcing the emoji illustrations, right? My team is super technical, so we could take the source code, we could run with it. So I felt like we had like a little bit of superpower there, that we didn't have to go on, Upwork and find a developer. And we happened to find a really good designer that was, willing to work with us right away. And so for me, it was, okay, at that point, I still knew that I needed to cold call these influencers. I still needed to reach out to these influencers. And so I wanted to make sure that I had a product that they would see and they would be like, holy crap, this was made by a swimmer. Like, these emoji illustrations are like, no one else in the world is going to understand them but swimmers. And because of that, I want my name attached to that because I'm a swimmer and I see like myself in these emojis. I see, like these are going to absolutely kill it. Like one of the emojis is an alarm clock with 5:01 a.m., right? Like that's when swimmers wake up for morning practice, right? Like it's almost universal, right? And so like that's just one of those things that people that are swimmers, they see and they're like, that's hilarious. And normal people see and they're like, WTF, right? And so that was a big piece of what we were working on, or what I was working on was creating emoji illustrations that I knew my audience would react to, that they would be like, oh my gosh, like crushed it, like I definitely want to send these to my friends, kind of thing. The rest of my team was focused on taking the Blue Cloud code, adding things like the Facebook Pixel to it, the Facebook SDK to it, adding some new enhancements to it, and just kind of working with it and kind of getting it into a spot where we felt like it was the best possible product that we could put out there. And they were they were getting images from me and they were getting image assets from me and they were like, I don't get this, I don't understand it, but like, what category does it go in, kind of thing. And the whole time I'm trying to, hook the influencers and their managers and trying to, reel them in and slowly kind of get them in. And so that was the whole process to get us to the App Store. And it was nice because we had the Olympics in 2016 that we were trying to launch before. So normally you can kind of create like an artificial deadline for yourself, like, oh, in 2 weeks, like I'm going to launch this thing. But with the Olympics being like, I know, like we want to be available for purchase during the Olympics so that people can send each other people like, gold medals and silver medals and whatever. We had this like really real deadline, so we didn't slack off. And so like my team was like, man, this is like a deadline, like a client deadline. Like we're getting killed here, Evan. Like, can we slow down?
Yeah, it's true. I as a swimmer and having downloaded your app, I multiple illustrations where I'm like, there's no way anyone would have known about this if they had not put in, 10 100s fly. Like you don't know what that feels like unless you are a swimmer. And I think that, that's a big part of knowing your audience is knowing those details that, connects with them.
Yep, for sure.
So you had the template, you got a designer. The designer essentially just created these graphics for you, right? Sticker graphics. You then put those graphics back in the template, and then your team modified it with a handful of new modifications, improvements. You made it the best you could make it. Then you upload it to the store, and that's when the Facebook Bonanza began. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, cool. If you just, let's say you weren't a coder or you weren't a developer, how do you think you would have approached this if you didn't know anything about if all you knew was that swimmers were who they were? How much of this process would have changed, and if so, what would you have done differently?
Yeah, absolutely. So even though I am a coder, right, I went on the App Store, I downloaded Kim Kardashian's emoji app, I downloaded Justin Bieber's emoji app, I downloaded Stephen Curry's emoji app. Like, I only like vaguely know who these people are. That's how nerdy I am. But like, I wanted to see what was considered like the the price of entry for an emoji app, right? And so like I was taking screenshots of them. It went so far as that we printed the screenshots out from all of the apps that we liked. We taped them up on the wall, and we drew lines being like, this is the flow that we want. And so it was like a screenshot of Kim Kardashian's app, a screenshot of Stephen Curry's app, a screenshot of, and we were like, this is how we want it to work, right? And like, the engineers on my team were like, oh, okay, like I can figure that out from here kind of thing. Like, leave it with me. And so I wouldn't change that. I would do the exact same thing. I would probably be a little bit more organized. Like I would, somehow figure out how to find somebody on Upwork that I could give that level of instruction to. But I mean, a ton of it is just testing and like getting builds and testing and iterating, and this detail's not right and this detail's not right, and just going back and forth until it is the product that you want it to be. Which is funny because at the San Francisco event, if we fast forward to November, at the San Francisco event, I see that you and Mark have released Golden Emoji, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, that product just sucks. Like that product is so crappy. Like, oh, like it just hurts me. Like I know that it could be so much more from an engineering standpoint. And then you flash the numbers of what you guys are doing on Facebook ads and what you guys are doing on revenue, and I'm just like, oh shit! like the engineering doesn't matter. Like we are getting creamed from a marketing standpoint, from a market research standpoint. Like the people that are buying Carter's app are buying a lesser product, and the people that are buying Swimoji are buying a great product, but I'm not getting in front of the people as effectively as he is, and so then I'm like, all right, like I'm coming after you, Carter, like what do I need to do?
Well, it's true. I think that I think that the product is obviously like incredibly important, but I do think that there is a hierarchy of order when it's like, if you want to make money, there are certain things that should come first, and then there's certain things that should come second, right? And if it's you want to make, least amount, like get a product in the store and produce profits, marketing is, I would say, tied with number one in terms with something like market research or knowing your customer. All right, and if you know your customer and you know how to get in front of them with a product that is good enough, as you saw, like good things happen. And then the next level may be something like, all right, let's make this product really good, or let's expand the service offering and whatever else, so that you can actually build a business off of it. But when you're looking at like, hey, let's turn some stuff that's in our head into money in the bank. Customer or market research paired with marketing, put that together, and I think the internet and the App Store are both terrific examples of how powerful that combination is, especially when revenue is your goal.
Sure. No, it kills me, right? I'm an engineer. I have like a lot of like skill and pride in my craft as being able to write code, and I've got this superpower, and all this kind of stuff. And to have to admit that my coding skills are only, a tenth of as important as market research, and knowing that I want to put emojis in front of, cat owners instead of, porcupine owners, like that is just like that kills me to have to admit that out loud, because I want to be like, it doesn't matter who you put it in front of, like the product is beautiful, right? Like that's like the Steve Jobs mentality. Like, no, that's not true. Like it matters who you put it in front of, and if you do it pretty well, like they'll reward you.
Well, and also when you do the marketing and the market research, and then you combine it with a great product, that's when you get something really spectacular. Because I think the other caveat that I would say is that while the market research and marketing side can facilitate growth and revenue very quickly, there is a ceiling on that if people are not if they get a product and they are not very satisfied or even over satisfied with what they paid for or what they downloaded or whatever it may be, you are running a lead acquisition business where you just need more and more customers to run through that front end of your business. And I think that's the other thing to keep in mind, is that we're not talking about millions of dollars here. Like we're talking about $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, which is a substantial amount of money. I'm not trying to downplay that, but I think that's the other thing, is why you see so many marketers who can do the market research and they can write the sales stuff, but they're constantly trying to get new traffic and trying to get in front of new people instead of catering to an existing audience, because they tend not to have a whole lot of people that are like, yeah, this was great. This was exactly what I wanted. And so I think it's always a balance, but like we said earlier, it's just when there's certain goals and certain priorities, there is a very clear hierarchy of how it works, and
absolutely
how business has always gone. So with Swimoji, it has since become a very profitable project, and I think that and not only from profitability, it's been featured by Apple like dozens of times. I mean, every time I open the App Store, it seems like I see this thing like, hey, apps we love, Swimoji, It's great. It's amazing. What was the turning point for your marketing to go from, oh my God, burn the credit cards, don't do Facebook ads ever again, we're spending $4 CPI, to, wow, we've got something that's working. We can continue to do this.
Yeah. So it came down to a couple of different things, right? So it was the courses that I took through Blue Cloud in November. So there was an app business strength course in November that really forced me to sit down and dump out of my head who my target swimming audience market was, right? So like I had to create a persona. I had to think of, a person that I wanted to build this app for, right? And I, so I sat down and I brainstormed that. I went to the San Francisco event and I saw what you were doing with Goldenmoji, and then I heard what Noel was doing with Facebook ads, and I kind of synthesized that together and said, okay, how can we revisit Facebook ads now armed with very specific, market research, also with very specific tactics that we can use. Let's try to put those two things together and see what happens, on another iteration with Facebook ads, on another, round of trying to go after it.
Very cool. So once you identified the customer, the marketing metrics began to improve. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Well, not even improve. Like, I had to remove myself, right? Because up until we turned Facebook ads off, I was designing an app and designing Facebook ads to reach someone exactly like me or exactly like my wife, right? We were both college swimmers. We're both, we've got a little bit of disposable income. Like I was kind of like trying to put those pieces together. And so there was a lot of myself in there in those ads. sitting down and being forced to really think about like, okay, who's downloaded your app? What's the metrics look like? What do the analytics look like, et cetera, made me take myself out of it and say, okay, what if Evan's not part of this equation? How do we capitalize on, someone else kind of thing? And that's when it took off. That's when it was no longer, I'm glad that Evan did this because he knew all of the inside jokes, but guess who loves it even more than Evan and Carter? It's going to be, Julie, who was a swimmer in high school and college, and now she's doing Swim Across America, and, she is like totally involved in nonprofit, swimming events kind of thing. You're like, oh, like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like light bulb moment kind of went on there.
I see, yeah. And then, she's reading this magazine and she spends money on this product and all that sort of thing. And with Facebook ads, just from a pure kind of operational standpoint, you are going into Facebook ads and you are taking that Julie person, that swimmer, and you are creating that avatar and taking your best guess at what her interests may be on Facebook, which you can target on Facebook ads.
Yep.
How old she is, what country she lives in, or even what state if you want to get that crazy. And then through that, you can get really specific. And by getting more specific in what they're interested in or what pages they like or what their job is or where they are in their life or whatever it may be, that is the process of going from, let's say, $3 cost per install down to, let's say, 50-cent cost per install. It is that specialization process. Is that right?
Absolutely. So, prior to we were targeting interests that were things like, Michael Phelps and, Olympic swimming, like those types of things, right? Like, well, my mom likes Michael Phelps. My mom likes Olympic swimming. Like she likes swimming because I was a swimmer, but like I am sure that there are a lot of her friends that also like Michael Phelps and like, Michael Phelps has 9 million like fans on Facebook. Right. And so it's like, oh, well, what about like this one hyper specific, was in the Olympics only in 2016 and, blew it up, got a bunch of gold medals and like was a dark horse candidate. Right. Like that's a better example. Right. Like what about people that like, Lululemon yoga pants as well as also like triathlons, right? Like give me the blend of those two people, right? Because those people are stretching and flexible and, things that are important to swimmers, and they're also interested in not just swimming, but running and biking and, all that kind of other stuff. And so like, that's really when you start to like tweak the knobs and dial in on like, no, I don't just want anybody that wants Michael Phelps. I want like this very specific Julie person, and this is how I find her.
I see. Yeah, it makes so much sense too. It's like, I think anybody who's listening to this, and I know for myself, the more I see specific ads, as a marketer, right, I like 90% of the ads I see are, hey, 3-step system to making money with webinars or whatever new course is being sold at that moment. But if I see something that's, Amazon, I think is a perfect example. Their retargeting or their Facebook ad stuff,
it's crazy.
Is like, it's completely insane, right? Where I'll be browsing for a new camera lens and that's all the ads I see. And it's one thing to see retargeting on, retargeting ads of the site you were on another site or on Facebook. It's another thing to see the actual product page that you were on being retargeted to you. And when they get that specific, part of me is like, oh, well, I hope my copy of 1984 is coming because I need to reread that. But it's also like, it's magic from a marketer standpoint of, this is exactly what I care about. Like, I do not want to know about Canon cameras. I want to know about your 24 to 70 millimeter lens because that's what I actually care about. And I think that's truth, that fundamental that's what good marketing is. And I think that's why I get so excited about this particular category, this particular app, is because it's the first time I've seen real fundamental marketing creeping into the app business. It's no longer about like, oh, well, if you misspell the title and you make it free and then paid and then you do 4 backflips, you're going to get 5,000 downloads. It's finally like, actually, if you just know your customer and you get more and more specific about your customer, and you can do this for anything. This isn't one like problem solution that one particular niche has. This is you can just go find these communities and go to town on getting in front of them.
Yeah. And what's neat about the communities is that there is a virtually unlimited number of very specific communities, right? So like if you want to do an emoji app for people that are knitters, right? That crochet and knit and what, you can do that, right? Like you can do the market research for them. You can figure out like, what they would respond to. You can figure out, what kind of emoji stickers you need to put in there that would really like make them think like, wow, this is awesome. And so that's where we're headed with what we've done. So we have, since Swimoji, have released another 3 more emoji apps, and it has just been that like tweaking and dialing in on, like, okay, so Doberman lovers, like people that love the Doberman dog, like let's get inside of their head. Like what are they most proud about their breed of dog? What are they most proud about? What would they react to? People that are in the LGBT community, like what is it that they want to do, and you just keep integrating yourself into those communities. You just keep researching those communities, and you just keep it feels like an unlimited number of communities that are out there that you can hit.
Yeah. I think that's I think in a lot of ways that's what Facebook also realized with the whole idea of groups, is that there is something very human about I want to share, be around people that are interested in the same stuff I'm interested in.
Sure, it's tribalism, right?
Yeah, in so many words. And, you look at these groups, and that's kind of what magazines used to be. And it's just like, oh, yeah, like, there's a reason why people have follow different accounts on Instagram, and why people spend money on different things, is that we all have different interests. But that's also what, like, we, by definition, are interested in. So it's one thing I wanted to touch on, too, is, as you're making more emojis, is the revenue model of how these emoji apps work. Now, the most emoji apps out there are paid, right? Are like 99 cents or $1. So someone has to spend $1 or $2
sure.
to get the app. What revenue models have you tried, and which ones have given you the most success so far?
Yeah, so we have tried paid upfront, and we have tried in-app purchase, and then we are looking at other opportunities, right? So pushing our Swimoji users into a totally different app, right? And monetizing that with ads, or monetizing that, in a different way, or, cross monetizing, right? So if you get the free app and you already have Swimoji, then let's unlock everything in the free app for you already, kind of thing, right? So like some sort of like gamification, or some sort of, process to kind of keep people within a vertical of interest. And so a lot of that boils down to, we don't know what we don't know, and we're trying new things. And I think that's comes from, way back at the beginning of the year when I was headed to Hawaii, and I was like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but let's see what happens. So now we're kind of taking that and running with it, and being like, okay, like, should we do an Amazon affiliate link? Like, can we push notify and get everybody out there to, click on, Gatorade or something like that, right? like, I don't know, but let's try it, kind of thing. Like, maybe we can make a few cents off of an Amazon link. And so we're looking, just like you said, right? So if you have a good product, a good quality product, and you're acquiring users, in a reasonable way, how do you continue to delight those users, right? What else would it be? Is it another app? Is it something outside of the app? Is it, I don't know, like, it sounds crazy, but you could do a Swimoji conference, right? Where like everybody that loves Swimojis comes and have Swimoji Con or something like that, right? Like, there's really no limit once you have that audience of people that you are saying like, hey, like, everybody likes this, so like, let's all pile together and hang out, kind of thing.
It's funny. I met a guy, I guess a year and a half ago now, who owned an astrology website. People come and what sign are you, and get your sign read and all that. And so this guy was doing 25,000 leads a day, email addresses a day, like off of Facebook ads. And so it was pretty heavy hitting stuff. But he also had an app component where it was essentially just get people to join, put your email address in so that we can email you your report every day or whatever. And they were doing okay. I mean, they were making plenty of money to sustain that kind of business. But they found that the biggest revenue generator for them was to do events based on your sign. So they would have, they would be like, we're doing a regional Gemini event in New York City. We're doing a Taurus event in Chicago. We're doing a Scorpio event in Los Angeles, the whole thing. And it just completely took off. And then they took it even a step further where they realized that the big money in astrology was in dating, right? Like at the end of the day, what people really like cared about with astrology is finding the match. Like they cared less about themselves and they cared more about how they match with other people. So then they started doing high-end events where they would be like, well, Geminis are compatible with Aquariuses, so we're going to invite all of our Gemini and Aquarius, and it's like $3,000 to come to, and it's like this amazing retreat weekend, and it's like you can mingle with all these awesome people, and it's like that it's already curated with your signs that's going to work. I mean, there's a little bit of ethical whatever in there for certain people, but what I will say is that it blew my mind that most people would have been like, oh, we'll sell them a $25 product and then sell them a $100 product about, how to become the most productive Gemini you can be. But they're like, no, we're gonna take this community thing and make it real. So I have learned never to think that any revenue model from any other business is ridiculous when it comes to people that have a high affinity to each other.
Perfect. SwimMojiCon, it's coming.
Yeah,
I've got all the analytics data, right? I know where it should be, probably in Florida or Texas. Like
exactly.
I can zero in and be like, all right, like this is where we're going, kind of thing. We'll have races. That'll be the big draw. Is race anybody from across the United States.
Yeah, all you can eat buffet, no morning practice. Yeah. It's gonna kill it.
Yeah, exactly.
These apps obviously are following I should say the business models are following a relatively similar model in the sense of identify a community of people, create a product around that or for those people, advertise it to those people using, in this case, Facebook ads, but it could be influencers or whatever it may be, and scale from there, rinse and repeat, grow, whatever it may be. And that process, that system is slowly gelling into something that you guys are really dialing in on. How are you taking that and potentially packaging it up in a way that you could, if you ever wanted to, sell your app portfolio? What are some of the key things that you're doing now to set yourself up for that kind of exit?
Yeah, absolutely. So our primary way of thinking is that if somebody wants to come in and buy our portfolio, they're going to want basically money on tap, right? Like they're going to want a turnkey, like where do I put the money in and how do I get more money out style business. And so for what that means, I think, is that means that we need to have instructions on how you build a new emoji app, right? We need to have instructions on how do you run your Facebook ads. But we also need to have instructions on things like how do you find the perfect community, right? What is it that we're seeing that we think is successful, et cetera, kind of thing. How are we doing the market research? Where are we going? What is our special sauce to find, swimmers versus lacrosse players or something like that, right? Like, what is it that we are doing that leads up to an emoji that, we basically know, when we push this thing out there, it's going to go like crazy versus when we push this thing out there, we hope it goes like crazy, right? Like somebody buying the company doesn't want to buy with a we hope in there at all. They want nope, like this is not a gamble. Like I'm just buying this and those guys want to exit because they want to cash out and I'm going to dump more in and I'm going to grow this. And those guys are going to come back to me in a year and be pissed that, I got such a good deal on it because I've turned it into something even better.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've learned through business dealings, I mean, through my own exits, but also just through business period. The most powerful thing you can do is when you're selling a business is just all you got to do is just prove it. Like if you can just prove it to a point where people have nothing left to say about why $1 wouldn't turn into $2, you can really just command virtually any amount of money that you want. I mean, within reason of how much the company's making to begin with. And I think that, everything like that's exactly right. It also makes your business run better to begin with. You use it yourself.
Yeah. No, I was trying to explain to my wife, I was like, hey, like we are so excited because, we're putting all of these, procedures in place so that, we can sell the business. And she was like, wait a minute, I don't understand. Like if this business is making, $10,000, $50,000, $100,000, dollars a year, what is with you? Why would you sell that? And I'm like, yeah, but like the time value of money, like if somebody's going to pay me, 2x multiplier on it today, that's a better deal. And she's like, yeah, but what about the third year? Like what happens after that? Like I was like, well, I'm like trying to explain the economics to her. And she's like, you're dumb. Like, can we buy it from yourself? Like, I was like, good. Like, I'm glad you like the business. If I convinced you, then maybe I'll convince somebody else.
Yeah, like create like your secondary LLC that you sell to, and then you loan the money back to yourself and create infinite bank. It's great.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask you is having an interesting perspective, not only because you've built 5 or 6 emoji apps at this point, but you also see a lot of people building emoji apps and asking a lot of questions about emoji apps. What would you say the number one mistake that people are making right now who want to build an emoji app?
Yeah. So I would say the number one mistake that I am seeing people that are building emoji apps make is that they are not like really, really ratcheted down on a specific niche, right? So they may have picked dogs and not Chihuahuas, right? They may have picked cars and not Ferraris, right? Or red Ferraris built in the 80s, right? Like that group is even easier to hit on Facebook than everybody who has ever said they liked a car kind of thing, right? And so I see a lot of that in the group where it is, I built this thing and, it's a really broad audience. I think that for the emoji apps, I think that because there are pockets of users to find, I think there's really a few ways to find those users, right? So for me and my team, it's been Facebook ads. That has been the quickest, easiest, pour money in, get more money out style of working this. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of burning through cash, right? And like for a lot of people, that's a huge risk that they don't want to take. I think another option is an influencer route, right? So I'm going to build something for this community, and I want that influencer to lose their mind when they see how dialed in these emojis are for the community that they're servicing, right? So not the video game community, but the mobile easy play games, for 13 to 25, like really, really dial it in kind of thing and find that influencer, right? That influencer doesn't have to have 1 million followers. That influencer has to have 5,000 followers where, anything they say, those 5,000 people are going to lose their mind over it. And then I think there may be a third way to do this, which is to find those Facebook groups. Right? Like find the Facebook groups for the people that are, really involved with, leukemia, lymphoma, right? And make them an emoji app. Make them something that talks about, fighting and the different challenges that come with, a family or something like that. Like if you can dial in on that and you can get into that group and you can start to provide that group with support, insight, whatever it is that particular group is excited about or responds to. And you don't have to respond right away, right? You can kind of hang out, you can kind of watch how they're doing. And then you can say, hey, I found this really cool article published on, Gizmodo, or I found this really cool article published on, Huffington Post or something like that. And you can start to kind of poke those things in there that when you make that ask of those people in those groups and be like, hey, I've been hanging out. I like all of you guys. I made this emoji. What do you think? Or do you have feedback? Or, what is it that would, really get you excited? What would you like to see? Those people lose their mind and they're like, oh my gosh, like we know you, like we like you, like even though it's over the internet, like, kind of thing. And so that's what I see people not doing. And going back to those old ways of ASO, where it's like, oh yeah, like I don't think that there's anybody in the App Store that's searching for, or when I search the App Store, I don't see anything for bone marrow cancer emoji. Like that's probably too specific, or skeleton emoji or something like that, or Halloween emoji or something like that, right? Like those are pretty broad terms that you feel like you might be able to dial in on with ASO. I just don't think so. I think you've got a better shot at having a 5,000 user base and building a business around them and getting them excited and servicing that group than saying, I'm going to do something that's going to appeal to 100 million users and I'm going to use keywords to get there.
Yeah, I think it's dead on. I think that really resonates with, I think it was named Kevin Kelly, the guy from Wired, who wrote that famous essay of 1,000 True Fans. Where it's like, if you want to build a real business, you just need 1,000 people that really love what you're doing. And you will be able to make, the money you need to make. And I think that along those same lines, typically in the App Store, people have needed so much volume to make what they consider viable passive income. And let's say that's $2,000 a month, right? Which would definitely pay for a bunch of bills and it would help a lot of people. And when you do the math on how many downloads you need to get for advertising or for in-app purchases or whatever it may be, because typically it's usually going to be a free app. You need 10, 20, 50, 100,000 downloads a month to make that kind of money, which if you nail some of those broader terms, maybe you'll get it. But I think what's so great about, or what needs to happen is a bit of a mindset shift to realize that there are riches in the niches once you get outside of the App Store. The niches inside of the App Store are always going to be difficult to crack because you're beholden to that kind of keyword volume that doesn't quite exist yet for the niche markets, because people don't search in the App Store for stuff that's super specific yet. That's just not where they go. They go to Google or they go to Facebook. But if you go over to Google and Facebook and you find those people that are very specific and let them know that there's something in the App Store that they'd be stoked about, that's when you're going to get huge response. And I think that's just it's going to be an evolution, but I'm really excited about that. I know that this is like the thing that I've been waiting for in the App Store, is this ability to essentially buy traffic and know who my users are. And we're finally able to do that, which seems insane that we've been around for 7 years and now we can finally do it. But
yeah. Well, it's funny because, when Facebook ads didn't work for us the first time, right? I'm going into the Blue Cloud group and I'm saying like, okay, so I've got this app on the App Store. Does anybody think that people are searching for swimmer or for swim app or like all of these keywords that I'm like, okay, like I'm going to double down on ASO. Like I'm going to crush it on ASO if I couldn't crush it on Facebook. And, it was crickets. Everybody was like, oh, why would anybody search for that? People are searching for like, endless runner, and people are searching for, flappy fill in the blank. People are searching for, casino Egyptian or whatever. And I'm like, oh, crap. Like I'm screwed. Like this is never going to work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, oh wait, why would anyone ever go to the App Store to like look for some sort of swimmer thing? And then once you realize that, you say, oh yeah, maybe I should just go get in front of them where they are searching for this, and I think it's going to allow you there. One question for you: what do you think? This is just off the cuff here. What do you think? Like, if you yourself, like, if 2015 Evan was listening to yourself on this podcast right now, what would be your reaction?
I'd be like, that guy is so full of horseshit. I don't believe a single word that he is saying. Like, there is no way that he is like a total newcomer to the App Store, that he is like, building these emoji apps, that he is, getting them downloaded by these people, that he has a profitable business. Like, no way. That is total BS. Like, this is some sort of marketing, like you got punked kind of thing.
Yeah, it's
I mean, that's super depressing to think that, but like, we had this mind shift that we had to go through.
Yeah, no, and I think that's, like, that is exactly what I would have thought of myself, like, a year before I got apps in the store. I would have been like, who the hell, like, who is this Carter guy? Dude, like, you should be building lawyer websites, man. Get a balance sheet. What's up? You know, like, put on some real, like, some slacks and, you know, hit the pavement. Like, there's no way you could do that.
Yeah.
One question, which I don't know if I asked this on a couple of podcasts, but I'm just genuinely curious in what your answer would be, is assuming you got a phone call, let's say from Princeton or for any college for that matter, and they said, we would like you to come give a graduation speech this year. What would the title of that graduation speech be?
Interesting. Yeah, I've heard you ask this, and I should have prepared, right? So I think the title of my graduation speech would be to perseverance, how to believe in yourself even when you don't know where you're going.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I think that notion of like, what do I want to be when I grow up? Man, I still don't have that answered, right? Like, I still have no idea. But like, I'm 7 years into being an entrepreneur and owning my own business and not having a boss. Like, I'm gonna keep doing this. Like, whatever this is, I'm gonna keep doing it.
Hell yeah, man! That's what it's all about. Evan, so how can people? First of all, how can people go download Swimoji once you change the price to $29.99? But how can they learn about that? How can they learn about you? How can they help you out? What can people do for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can head over to emojiallstars.com or search Emoji All Stars, emoji space all stars hyphenated in the App Store, and you'll find our catalog of apps. You can find me on Twitter at eDelaney, DELANEY 05. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram under those usernames as well. And then you can send me an email. What's up? So it's evan@emojiallstars.com. Ask me questions. I love helping people out for sure.
Awesome, man. And thank you so much for your time, dude. We'll link up everything in the show notes so everyone can go check you out. But thanks again, man. This has been awesome, and it's super cool to share this story with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Carter.
This has been another episode of the Blue Cloud Podcast. For more information on app development, ebooks, reliable source codes, and more, expand your mobile knowledge by going to bluecloudsolutions.com.